Welcome back to the Master Your Money podcast with me, Marini Jackson, your guide to mastering credit, building wealth, and creating financial freedom. Let's dive into today's episode. So, today we're going to talk to the person who may say, I don't need another budgeting app, I just need breathing room. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, the issue isn't always income. Sometimes it's cash flow choreography. Now, hear me out about this. You can make the same amount of money, but experience a completely different level of stability just by shifting your behavior. So, today we're going to talk about three powerful shifts: timing, which is greater than the amount. Second, your spending order matters. And also paying bills by priority, not just the due date. So let's get into it. So we're talking again about how not to live paycheck to paycheck. And the first thing is that your timing is greater than the amount that you're paying. So many people obsess over how much they make. I've been in that boat as well, where I just told myself that if I made more money, it would just solve so many problems. But stability is often about when money moves. You can earn $5,000 a month and still feel broke if your large bills hit before the second paycheck, such as your car payment. You may have some insurance that you're paying, as well as your rent or your mortgage. Also, automatic drafts, if they cluster at the beginning of the month, and then also if your spending spikes immediately after your payday. So often, paycheck to paycheck living looks like this. So let me know if you can relate. Payday, you get relief, you start spending, you have some mid-cycle stress, and then you have the next payday, which rescues you. So this is not about the amount. This is a sequence. This is a cycle that a lot of people live in. So the first thing you can do to make a shift and change is control those first 72 hours after you get paid. So after you get paid, those next 3 days are going to determine what your next 2 weeks looks like. So instead of, excuse me, doing things, and I've been guilty of this in the past, especially when I was initially, I would say a few months into owning my home many years ago. Sometimes I would eat out, I'd go shopping, or just feel, let me just reward myself because I deserve it. But that left me with is feeling that I had more month than I had money. And actually, I was not allocating and prioritizing the necessities in some cases, because sometimes what we feel we deserve, that can take a backseat to our necessities. So you should definitely fund your necessities. Move money to savings immediately, and then also cover your high priority obligations. And any money that's left sitting in our checking account, sometimes we think that's available money. Now, when I shifted from living at home with my mom to being a homeowner, I fell into that trap because I didn't put everything out, schedule everything out on the calendar, and I was still figuring things out. So I hadn't quite set automatic drafts for things. And I just felt, oh, there's an extra $20. I can go spend this. And that's definitely not the case. But your money has to be assigned a purpose, because if not, you can definitely get into some trouble financially. And when you have that stability, it improves when you control the timing of paying your bills. So second, we also want to make sure that we have the right spending order. Again, remember I said sometimes I treat myself after I get paid, but really the priority is making sure I'm taking care of my necessary expenses. So what most people do, excuse me, is they unintentionally sabotage themselves. Excuse me. And so this is the default order. I just told you what mine was when I was much younger. Um, so some people, they'll first pay for lifestyle, they'll pay for the minimum bills and put any type of savings with anything that's left. And that order is going to guarantee you stress, because if you prioritize your lifestyle over savings, then you're always going to be behind. Instead, adopt the stability first order. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of your shelter, your rent or your mortgage that's paying for where you're staying, your utilities, food, transportation, insurance, any type of minimum debt payments that you're making, your savings, and at the very end, after all of those are taken care of, everything else. And yes, savings comes before any type of lifestyle upgrades. Now, why is this important? Because savings, it helps to break the emergency cycle. When you don't have savings, your car repairs go on credit cards. I've had to do that before. Your medical bills go on credit cards. I've had to do that before as well. Travel gets financed. I've fallen into that trap myself. And unexpected expenses become debt. And one thing to remember, savings isn't luxury, it's a pressure valve. So when you have money put in savings, that's giving you a buffer, a cushion, and giving you some relief from unnecessary and undue stress, that when you make savings a priority, then you won't later down the line, you won't have issues. So your spending order is determining your financial outcomes more than your income does. And you, number three, want to make sure that you're paying your bills by the priority, not just the due date. And this is definitely a mindset shift that has to be made. So most people, they treat all of their bills equally. They treat their rent or their mortgage the same they treat their cell phone bill, and the two are not the same. You want to make sure you take care of the priority, paying for your shelter, the rent, or the mortgage. And the phone is important, but your shelter is definitely most important. Because not all bills carry equal consequences. If cash is tight, just ask yourself, with everything that you're paying, what's going to happen if this is late? For some bills, again, I'm using housing. If you don't pay for your housing, that's immediately going to affect your housing situation. Also, if same with utilities, your utilities could be cut off. If something is not paid with your vehicle, then that can impact your transportation to your job, which again affects your income. And some bills could trigger some bigger penalties as well. So with other bills, there may be a grace period. You might be able to negotiate those bills. And with some bills, you may be able to get on a payment plan, or even, as far as things impacting your credit, it may be reported later. But your priority, again, your priority strategy for payments means that you're protecting your shelter, the place that you live, Number two, you're protecting your income. So if you have a car and your car is how you get to work, you want to make sure you're paying your transportation costs. And if your phone is required for work, making sure your phone is paid for. Your utilities, which is your light, your water, etc. And then the last priority is your minimum debt obligations. So this isn't necessarily about simply being responsible, it's about your survival hierarchy. Your cell phone should not have higher priority than your housing, your shelter. So having some financial maturity means that you're understanding the consequence severity. If you don't pay your cell phone bill on time, and I'm not a proponent of that, of course, it's not as severe as you not paying your rent or your mortgage, because that can mean you have to find another place to live. So when we treat our bills with our emotions instead of with a strategic plan, you're just increasing your anxiety. And when you prioritize it based on the impact it can make, you definitely increase control. So I'm gonna give you a secret, and this is why, and this is a hidden reason why people stay stuck. It's not because they're lazy. I know some people may say, no, they need to just get another job. They're just not doing what they need to do with their money. It's about their emotional spending cycles. Look, I know we all work hard, we get paid, we want relief, and we'll spend for comfort. But then when those bills come, it creates stress, and that cycle keeps repeating itself. And living paycheck to paycheck isn't simply about math, it's your behavior plus your timing and regulating your emotions as well. So this is something you can do starting this month. So remember, we're all about our financial reset. So this is how you can shift without earning more money starting this month. Create a payday plan, not for the month, but just for your payday. Excuse me. Now, I am a huge proponent of budgeting, but this is something different that you will do. Budget. I usually will budget for the month, but instead of budgeting for the month, plan for each paycheck. And this is something that I've done as well. Like what I would do if I know, Friday's the payday, I would write out everything that would come out of that check. My tithes, savings, any type of bills for that particular week that will be coming up before the next pay period, and assign every dollar within what I did is I did it before, but to start, I would say within 24 hours of receiving that money. Number two, separate your account strategically. I remember calling my mortgage company once because I had to use the grace period to pay my mortgage. And the gentleman, he's like, well, you can do something really simple and just set up a different account for your mortgage payments. And that way you always know, how much money is in that one account. But he was saying just do it just for the mortgage. But one thing you can do is you can have one account strictly for your bills, have a separate account, which is your spending money, and a third account, which is your savings. And what you don't see, you don't accidentally spend. So if there's no money in your spending account, excuse me, that does not mean transfer money from your savings to spend on whatever, whether it's a pair of shoes, things of that nature. And the third thing you want to do is you want to make sure you're creating a buffer. If you have absolutely nothing saved right now, our first goal is we're going to build a $500 to $1,000 stability buffer. And this isn't for investing, it's not for vacations, but it's just to have some breathing room. And once you stop needing your next paycheck to rescue you, then your anxiety is going to decrease. So paycheck to paycheck living isn't a character flaw. Like some people may feel like, because that person's living paycheck to paycheck, they're just making unwise decisions. They're spending all of their money in a frivolous way, and that's not necessarily true for everyone. It's a structure issue, but your structure can be redesigned, and you don't need more money to feel stable. You need better money timing. So last week, again, remember we talked about the micro leaks? So this is building onto that. So now we are getting ourselves at a place where we're working towards being stable. So here's the question I'm going to leave you with. If I gave you the same income that you currently have next month, but forced you to change the order and timing of your spending, what would your financial life look like? Would your financial life look different? Because that one shift alone can change everything. And this is a bonus tip. With some of your bills, as I mentioned earlier, some can be negotiated. You can actually request that the payment date be changed. So if you know at the beginning of the month that there are some heavy things that are coming out, and when I say heavy, meaning like if you have your mortgage, you have car insurance, you may have life insurance, things of that nature all coming out at the beginning of the month, and it's not, you don't have enough money to cover those responsibilities, but towards the end of the month, you may have a little bit more flexibility. Look at your budget and look at your payments and see if that payment date can be changed. And that's an easy way that you can structure differently as well. So I hope that this has been helpful. Again, we are stopping our financial leaks. We are stopping our paycheck to paycheck living, and we are structuring our finances to give us more breathing room and stability. So if this has been of value to you, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone that you think would love this as well. And if you have a friend, invite them as well to join in on this financial journey with you so that they can win with you with your finances. Both of you can win together. And also, if you'd like to take further steps, reach out to me or visit my website at www.virtuefinancialsolutions.org, and you can check out my coaching programs, products, and more, which will be of great value to you. So again, remember, we don't just master our money. We don't just manage, we don't just manage our money, we master it.